Mute, naka-unmute na naman ako. Hi everyone, this is Grace Peraza from the Bailiwick Academy, and welcome to our episode for tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And sino bang guest natin for tonight? You already know that I already introduced her in my post. She's Malaya Polidario. And she's a freelance trainer and consultant for quality and food safety. She's a corporate food safety manager, a certified lead auditor for ISO, corporate R&D specialist, and TSD technician, QA. So she has a lot of experience when it comes to food safety. Kaya we decided to invite her in tonight's episode so that she could help us with our problems, lalo na ngayon na problema yun sa mga, marami tayong mga home bakers na mga students. So let's all welcome Miss Maya. Hi Miss Maya, paki-unmute na lang po ma'am. Ayan. Di ka po yung audio mo ma'am, pa-unmute na lang po. Ayan, wala pa rin po. Ayan. What about me, guys? Can you hear me? Can you just type in the comment section? Miss Maya, can you hear me? Okay. Kayo po, ma'am, naka-mute po. Hindi kita ma-unmute. Baka dito sa sa kabila.
Ayan.
Bakit gano'n? Meron pangatlo.
Meron pangatlo kasi
Ah,
nga yung aking setup is yung cellphone yung audio and then may video ako coming from the laptop.
okay. So, yung audio mo nandun sa phone.
Yes, oo.
Okay. Tapos yung video nasa laptop.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Kaya pala, kaya pala kailangan ko palang i-add yung isa. Sorry po.
Yes, oo.
Okay. So, yung isa naka-mute, tapos yung isa,
Mm-mm.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you for joining us for tonight. And I hope marami kaming matutunan sa madi-discuss mo sa amin for today. Ayan, guys.
I also hope to be a good teacher ngayon.
Yan. Narinig nyo, guys, si Miss Mayan. Clear naman siya.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Ayan. Okay. Okay naman. Okay naman
Okay.
daw. Oo. Yan. Probably, let's start na, ma'am, para we can entertain more questions later dun sa mga viewers natin. Nag-aantay sila.
Sige.
Okay. I leave the floor to you.
Thank you. Ayun. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I am tasked to explain what am I? Kasi I'm a food technologist. And what is a food technologist? We are a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Food Technology, or BSFT in shortcut. So this is typically a 4-year course that integrates multiple disciplines to address growing global food security concerns. This includes the disciplines from chemistry. Actually, we have a lot of chemistry. Half of what we study is based on chemistry. And then we also have biology classes, especially on microbiology and engineering classes or subjects, focusing on the innovation and processing of safe, stable, palatable, and nutritious food. So we also have a bit of background on nutrition. So depending on the curriculum of the university or the college, the program can include subjects relating to agriculture or farming and managing the startup of our own business if we want to pursue business into food manufacturing, storage, distribution, or food service. So what do we do when we graduate? We start off as quality assurance or quality control people, those that controls the quality of what we eat. But some of us are in the farming industry, be it plant farming or animal farming. So we can coordinate with farmers, we can coordinate with growers to produce our food because generally we all eat, di ba? Generally, it's a given that we all eat. So we can coordinate with the farmers and we can be seen in the agricultural world. Also, we are in the laboratories testing microbiological studies. We also test for nutrition. We also test for physical and chemical nature of the products that we eat. And we also are in the food industry. We manufacture food, we process them from the farm down to our shelf stable or even fresh fruits or fresh produce. We manufacture it in the plants for us to distribute it to the consumers. And then there's also the food service industry where I believe most of the TBA's community are, because most of you are bakers, so we are in the food service industry. Food service is also known as the horeca or the hotel, restaurants, and catering businesses. So we can also be there. We can be seen in the horeca businesses, ensuring that we produce safe and nutritious foods to everyone. So that is a food technologist. So j- sometimes we get to be irritated when people tell us, "Oh, you're food tech. So once you graduate, you can set up your own carinderia or you can set up your own restaurant." But then we are more than that. We can actually be seen from farm to fork, from where our foods are grown until you consume your products. Food tech is anywhere between those um, industries or any of those jobs. So
So ma'am,
yes,
ano, important talaga yung ano, food tech doon sa ano natin, sa industry natin, no?
yes, yes. Lalo na ngayon kasi since 2013 where food, FDA and DOH released the Food Safety Act of the Philippines, where the FBO or food business operators are required to produce safe and quality products, and the FBO operator, which is the owners, are required to have quality products and implement food safety practices. Very important talaga ang food technologies.
Pero, so if you're into business, kailangan mo talagang ano, to work with the food tech, with the food technologist?
As much as possible. But then again, in our day, there are a lot of home bakers, homegrown home bakers, homegrown home cooks that have evolved into setting up their own businesses. The government has set up training facilities wherein you can understand the requirements and uh, be able to implement these requirements. These trainers are mostly food tech. Some are experienced individuals. As I've said, a food technologists have chemistry background, biology, and engineering. So some of those in the industry for a long time are also in that discipline. So it's not entirely food tech, kasi baka may magalit. But then again, food tech having a vast um background, a very wide scope of information under their course is somewhat a very good choice. Well, not that I'm a food tech, but then again, yes, it's our way of benchmark of selling ourselves because we have a lot in our plate and we know a lot. But then again, um, we cannot discount that before there was food technologies. There are also chemists, there are also biologists, there are also engineers have been in the industry, and we cannot discount the fact that they also know the ins and outs of food safety.
Okay. Sige.
Okay.
What's the first in our agenda, ma'am?
Okay. Since most of you have watched Sir Chef Joey and Chef Anthony, I will just be adding a little bit of the food safety tips that they have given, and then we will divulge into discussion of the shelf life, where I believe most of you are very, very much interested in knowing how to declare the products, the shelf life of the products that produce. Okay, shall we begin?
Sure.
Okay, so first of all, we start with your facility. So, what is the requirement of a facility? Yes, I know that most of you are home bakers and most of you are home cooks, and then you just utilize your own kitchens, what your own kitchen can give. But then, what we need to do is ensure that our facility, our kitchen, is safe for food production. First is your food production, as much as possible, is enclosed for you to not welcome any unwanted elements. Like, for example, from the air, um, generally we consider outside or external facilities of food production to be unsafe because you are producing with unknown air circulating around your food. So this air, we don't even know if it is okay for production of your food. It will not contaminate them. So to ensure that an enclosed area is a safer uh, area wherein you can produce your food. Of course, the facility, the floors. It's important that your floors are not cracking, and it's not soil. It's not the source of contamination. As much as possible, it's well cemented, or it's in tiles, or just a smooth and cleanable facility. Where for food manufacturing plants, I don't usually recommend tiles because tiles are easily cracked whenever there would be pressure. But then for small facilities, a tile can be a friendly choice, a friendly option. And then
What is the
walls.
what is the best one, ma'am, to use for tiles? For the floor.
For floors, just a cemented one, smooth finish cement. If you want it painted, it can be painted. Some use the epoxy paint, so it will be not absorbent of the moisture that you have, and when you clean it, it will not absorb the moisture from the cleaning.
Okay. And the walls.
The walls, the walls should be the same. It should not be absorbent. So walls made out of wood can accumulate moisture, and then it can make molds grow. So you will notice that there would be black specks. These are called mildew. So as much as possible, your your walls are also cemented and painted with light colors. Light
Mm.
colors for you to have a good. It's good for the lighting. It bounces back the light, or refracts the light better, and it's easier to see if your surroundings are dirty or clean. So if it's dirty, you have to clean it. And
Mm.
even for your floors, if it's dirty, you have to clean it. So if you want to paint your floors, you paint it with a light colored paint also.
Okay. Probably with the floor, we can use rubberized paint so it won't be slippery,
Yes.
right?
Yes, the rubberized paint is also the epoxy paint,
Uh-huh. So that's the
but
same.
it comes how somehow it's the same. For the paint experts, it's different, but the material is actually different, and it comes in varying qualities. Some that are easily worn off are cheaper, of course, than the ones that are thick and does not easily come off. Some of the manufacturing plants I have consulted with are using the more expensive ones, and it lasts for maybe about 3 years. It depends on how you use it and how you maintain your floors. But when you use low cost epoxy paints or the rubberized paints, sometimes in a matter of 3 to 6 months, it has signs of chipping. So it's up to you how you will invest on the quality of your floor and how much budget you have, of course. Okay,
Okay.
for other requirements for the facility, for your ceiling, it has also to be it helps when you have a lighter color ceiling also. So it ref- reflects the or it refracts the light better. And when you have high steam in your production, like for example, you proof your breads or you have cooking done, at least you have a good exhaust, because what we are taking care of about the ceiling is it doesn't produce or it doesn't accumulate what do you call this? the condensates. Because when you have condensates in your ceiling, you don't know when these condensates will drop directly on your food. And these condensates are high in microorganisms. And we don't want that in our food, definitely. So the microorganisms, I believe, have been tackled earlier by Chef Joey and Chef Anthony. So if you want a review, you can go back to their to their videos for us to save time. Okay, so that's a ceiling requirement. Ceiling, if you have a higher ceiling, that's better because you will prevent condensation or formation of condensation better. And then for windows, as much as possible, you have screened windows. If you will utilize fresh air, at least you have screened windows. And if you will say, what's the difference if we use screened windows? So if are you saying that the what do you call this? The environment or the air coming from outside is still the same as the air inside. But then again, let's remember that the the dust, the pollution coming from outside is not that much compared to an open facility to that of the enclosed facility. So even if your windows are just screened, it's better than having an open facility for producing food. For doors, it's the same thing. As much as possible, it is not absorbent of odor. So if you can notice, wood is not a very primary material for the food industry because wood is an absorbent is a material that absorbs moisture, absorbs odor, and it deteriorizes earlier than other materials. So if you want to have aluminum doors or stainless doors, that's going to be better for your facility. Then again, if you're working for your at your kitchen, so whatever we have, we can we can utilize as long as you keep it clean and as long as you ensure that there are no mold formation in the woods that is available in your area. Because as a startup, we really cannot invest that much if we are just using our own kitchens. Baka sabihin niyo masyado ako ideal. Well, for food manufacturers, generally I am very strict when it comes to these facilities. But for home bakers and startup business, whatever we have, we can do and we can use. But we have to ensure that we clean it in a good frequency, ensuring that it is clean and it does not allow microorganisms or any contaminants to enter our area.
Okay.
Okay? For including in the facility is the utilities that we have. So lighting, what is the requirement for the lighting? As much as possible, we use white light. We don't use colored lights. Even yellow lights or pink lights or whatever soft tone lights. We recommend that for food industry, we use white light. Why white light? White light for you to have a good view of the actual color of your products. It will not hamper or it will not affect your senses in checking for the right quality of your products because you are using white light. And if as much as if you can, use a very lighted area for production. Don't produce food in a dark area because you will not be able to check if there would be contamination. Like for example, if there would be small pieces of um, decorations that's not supposed to be there, hair, or any other possible small contamination that can be in your food. So when you are producing in a well lighted area, these can easily be checked, and you can um, safely say to your customers that what you have delivered is contaminant free. Okay, so water source. For water source, it's good when you have potable and good water source, because whatever you use in your food and whatever you use for cleaning, that will affect your food that you produce. And how about areas that doesn't have a regular 24 hours source of or supply of water? Maybe you can have um, maybe you can have uh, wait maybe you can have drums or tanks where you can save save water for for it not to happen your operations. As much as possible, when you produce your food, you have regular flowing of water source. If it's potable, it's better. If it's not potable, you have to do something about it to ensure that whatever water source that you use in production in producing your food, that is ensured as safe to drink. So water comes in three, what do you call this? In three forms. One is the water that we use in baking and cooking, in washing our utensils, in washing our pots and pans, our ovens. So as much as possible, we use potable water for that. And then we also use it for ice. So when you produce ice, you have to ensure that the water you use for ice, especially those that you add in your ingredients or you add in your recipe, is also potable. If you just buy your ice, you have to ensure that where you buy it from, they are using potable water. You can actually request this testings of water potability from your sources of your ice. And then there's also vapor. Vapor from um, double boilers. So when you use water for double boiling, as much as possible, it is also potable. When you use it in your bain marie, when you use this when you use bain maries, the water that you put in there should also be potable. Okay.
I have a question with regards
Yes.
to the sink. Do you have any sink requirements?
Sink requirements. Sink
Yeah.
requirements. The ideal for a food service sink is the three uh, what do you call this? Ah,
Yeah, sink.
three compartment sink. Ayun. The three compartment sink.
Oh,
Why? The first one is you rinse. The first one is you wash your. The first one you should wash your utensils there. The second is you rinse it, and then the third one is for disinfecting. So the pre-rinse is done outside of the three compartment sink. Okay. What
hmm.
if you
So that,
don't have the three compartment sink?
yeah, so it's a
Okay,
separate. Tama ba?
you can use you can use pails or big langganas or basins, but make it a point that you regularly change the water in them. How regularly is regularly? When you see it as it's not um, nice to look at, then you have to change it. You just ask yourself, if I am to eat with the utensil cleaned in this area, will I be eating it? Will I be eating from that plate? Will I be using that spoon? If yes, then go ahead. But um, for us to eliminate any biases, maybe we can do an every hour change of the water, or 30 minutes if you have very fast moving operations. Every 30 minutes you change your water, and then when it's not that fast, every hour can be done. But then again, it depends on how big your pail or your basin is, because smaller basins and smaller pails will be um, will become dirty faster than those that are big. Okay. Any other questions for the facility?
So it should be three pala. I thought
Really.
sabi-sabi lang. Kasi yun pala yung standard talaga.
Totoo talaga siya na tatlo. Kasi nga, pagka dinala na natin siya sa dishwashing area, ah, malinis na siya. Natanggal na yung mga mismis na pagkain, nabanlawan na hangga't maaari. And then the first basin is where you apply soap solution to your pots and pans and the utensils that you have, and also the plates. And then for the second is the rinsing, and then the third is for disinfection,
Okay,
where
got
you
it.
can use chlorinated water, or some use hot water.
Dun sa third.
It's yes, pero it's going to be safer if you're going to use chlorinated water, because for hot water, your employees or the dishwasher uh, might have accidents when the hot waters will maybe cause first degree burns. So for us to eliminate that possibility, it's safer to use chlorinated water.
Okay. And so you will buy chlorine? Tama ba?
Yes, chlorine.
So safe yun na ano, ganyan.
Yes.
It's safe to use.
Yes, it's safe to use. There are chlorines that can be used in the facility. If you will be consuming a lot, like for example, you have a good um, turnaround of your products, maybe you can just coordinate with a good chemical supplier, both for your soap solution and your sanitizing solution. What is best here is you can ask them what is best for your operations, because like for example, if you have oily foods, they can recommend the right type of soap solution for you, and then it can also give you a good disinfection that would not hamper or would not react to the soap solution that you have.
Okay.
So if
But
you have basic foods demand, or less acidic foods, they can also recommend the proper soap solution for you.
okay. But if we don't have any access with that, we can just use hot water to
Yes.
use for our utensils. And we have a question here. Advisable po ba gamitin ang dish rack with heater to sanitize food utensils?
Yes. It can be used as long as you use it properly. You read your operations manual or operating manual of the machine, and then you check if the temperature is reaching at least 75. If the temperature is reaching 75 and above, and it has a contact time, or you leave the dish rack operating in more than 2 minutes, then maybe it can be used. But if the steam doesn't reach 75 degrees or
Celsius.
higher degrees Celsius, maybe it's not that safe to use, because we are not assured if the remaining microorganisms in the surfaces are killed.
So there should be a certain temperature, 75 degrees
Yes.
Celsius, for
And higher, ah. Yeah, if it's 80, I won't stop you there. Ang sabi ni ma'am, dapat 75 lang. No, it's 75 and higher.
higher. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the temperature where microorganisms die. Ganun po ba?
It's lower than that, but like for example, for reheating food, the actual temperature that you have to reheat food is 74. So that all of the temperature requirements for seafood, for meat, for poultry, or any other food, for even for dairy, is you're assured that those are all killed, especially the pathogenic microorganisms. Pathogenic microorganisms are the disease-causing microorganisms. So for us to be safer, when we disinfect, at least 75 and above.
Okay. Got it. Sige po, ma'am. Let's proceed.
Okay. So this one has been tackled by Chef Joey and Chef Anthony, but I want to highlight this. So this is on hand washing and hand hygiene. So purpose of the many steps in hand washing. Kasi like for example on this COVID thing, we've been in isolation, we've been in lockdown for almost a year already, or more than a year pala. And actually this hand washing thing is not new for the food industry, especially if you're in the manufacturing industry and your plant is practicing good hygienic practices, especially for hand hygiene and hand washing. So this is not new to us. The only thing new about COVID IATF protocols is the social distancing. But the face mask and hand washing were all um, used to doing that. Okay, so the purpose of hand washing, you might notice for WHO or DOH requirement for hand washing, there are a lot of steps. So, why are there a lot of steps? Parang napapagod tayo, di ba, na parang sabihin natin, bakit ang daming steps? Nakakapagod naman. Yung 20 seconds, parang ang dami kong gagawin. So, ano ba yung maganda para ano ba yung dahilan kung bakit siya ganun karami? So, I will be sharing a video sa inyo. Paano ko i-share yung aking screen?
Click niyo lang po yung share sa baba.
I-click ko lang yung share sa baba.
Opo. Sa laptop po kayo.
Ano sa laptop ako.
Yan.
Sige. Naka-share na ba?
Nakita niyo po yung share.
Nakita ko siya.
Share, tapos piliin niyo lang po yung click niyo po video file or share screen.
Okay. Video file.
Naka-save po ba sa computer niyo yung video? Or
Hindi.
sa
Share
internet?
screen na lang.
Opo. Share
Nakaano
screen.
naman ako sa share screen.
Magpa-pop up po na na window.
Oo nga. Pero pati hindi ko siya makita. Ayun. Okay. Ito tayo. Okay. And kung makikita ninyo, yung nalalagyan ng black, yun yung nalilinisan kapag naghuhugas tayo. Kaya maraming steps. So pagka yan...
wala pa po.
Ay, wala pa ba? Pati
wala pa po. Hindi pa po na-share.
Pati hindi pa siya na-share.
Maybe you can send it to me. Tapos ako na po yung mag-share. Yung link na lang po, ma'am.
Sige.
Send mo po sa akin. Yun ba yung ano? Parang nakita ko yun sa profile mo eh.
Oo, oo. Ayun, yun pala yun. Okay, marunong na ako.
Ayan, lumitaw na.
Ayan, lumitaw na siya.
Okay.
Ayan. So, kung ano yung malalagyan ng black ink, yun yung
Yun po yung play.
dahila. Ayan. Kung ano yung malalagyan ng black ink, yun yung nalilinisan. So, titignan natin kung bakit siya ganon karami na steps.
Okay.
So, pagka ganyan lang yung hugas natin ng kamay, yung harap lang yung nalilinisan natin. So, yan, pati yung sides ng ating fingers. Tapos yan yung likod naman. Tapos ang dami pang puti, di ba? So, ang ating objective is all of the areas ng kamay natin is maging itim. So, pati yung ilalim ng kuko, at saka syempre yung ating wrist. So, yan yung kagandahan kapag sinunod natin yung procedure ni WHO at saka ni DOH. So nakita na natin ha. Let's follow the DOH and WHO process in hand washing because it ensures that all of the areas, be it all the crannies and the corners of our hands, are being cleaned by using that procedure. Okay?
Yes. Yung una akala ko joke lang. Yun na naman ako. Pero nakita ko nga yung mga videos na ganyan. Yun,
Yes,
doon ko
it's
nalaman na
true.
ganun pala talaga.
Kasi some of us are really asking, it's just plain hand washing, so why do you need to have a very intricate procedure for it? So that's the reason why.
Yes.
I actually have this game whenever I do trainings that I put a powder that is glow in the dark, and then I make the attendees wash their hands, and then let's see if who did the right procedure in hand washing, because this is the glow in the dark powder are removed by applying the proper procedure. So they realize that the germs, which is symbolized by the glow in the dark powder, is still there if they do not follow the proper procedure for hand washing. So that is the proper procedure. So what do we do with where do we do the hand washing? Of course, if you have a facility, if you do food preparation, you have to have a hand washing station. And this hand washing station should be different from the dishwashing area. So
talaga? So, apat na. May gulay. So, there should be four? Four na sink?
no, it's separate.
Oo.
It's in a
Yes.
separate area.
Separate
Maybe it's in a
area.
corner
So, three
at
in
the
the
entrance.
kitchen.
At it can be at the entrance of di ba yung dishwashing area is at the backside of your processing. Usually, if you have a good layout of your kitchen. Now, the hand washing station can be at the front side or the entrance of your kitchen. So, what is a requirement for the hand washing station? So, you have to have, of course, water. If we will follow the Code on Sanitation that is printed 1976, this is Philippines. This is a Philippine law. The Code on Sanitation. The hand washing water should be 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius. This helps open your pores and clean it better, and also helps with your cleaning solution or your soap, hand soap, in cleaning your hands better. Okay, so
Hmm.
water, water that is warm. So that is a requirement for your hand washing station. Also, you have to have when it comes to the water, it should be in a um, non-hand operated faucet. You can use your knee, your foot, your elbows to operate it, but not with your hands, because you will touch it before you clean your hands, and then you will touch it again after you clean your hands. So what's the point of washing if you will touch the same faucet that you touch before you do the hand washing? So at least if you can create a an operating tool that it will be hands free, it's better. Okay.
Hmm. Parang
Mm.
parang sa mga
Parang yung
doktor
mga
po pala
dispensers
'yan.
natin, di ba? You have sensors. Di ba
Yeah.
mga CRs ngayon sa mga malls, di ba? They have sensors na kasi para nga
Mm.
maiwasan din yung mga hawa-hawaan. Kasi you don't know the health condition of the person who use it before you.
Hmm.
For a
True.
food preparation area, um, you
Same.
don't know how clean the hands that touch it before you touch it. So for us to eliminate that contamination, we use a hands-free faucet. We can do sensor, we can do foot operation, knee operation, elbow operation, as
Mhm.
long as your hands doesn't do the work for you to open and close the faucet. So
Okay.
that's one. Next is the soap that you have. As much as possible, it's liquid and you have a dispenser. Also, this dispenser, it's the same as um, your faucet. If it's hands free, it's better, so that it will not also contaminate your hands. And then um, the drying tool. So there are two options for drying your hands. One is the air dryer, or the second is the disposable towels or yung mga interleave tissues natin. But if I will be asked, my recommendation would be the disposable towel. Why? Because how long do you wash your hands? Based on the WHO and DOH requirements, it's only 20 seconds, right? So how long do you dry your hands using a hand dryer? I'm sure all of you have tried hand dryers in um, restaurants or even in the public toilets. So how long do you dry your hands using that? It's going to be more than a minute, I'm sure. So if it's 20 seconds for hand washing and a minute in your hand dryer, do you think the person behind you will do hand drying or not? So it's safer if you have disposable tissues, and you will ensure that everyone will be drying their hands with the disposable tissues instead of just wiping their hands on their buttocks or in their uniforms for it to dry faster. So that's it. For the disinfection, not all hand washing stations are required to have a disinfectant. Why? Because if you're into um, distribution or warehousing, wherein you do not touch the food directly, it's your hand washing station is not required to have a disinfection station. But if you're handling food directly, then your hand washing station should have a soap and a sanitizer dispensers. Okay, so these are your hand washing station requirements. water, a hands-free faucet, soap, and disinfectant as or sanitizing solution as necessary, and then your manner of drying your hands, be it hand dryer or air dryer or the disposable tissue. Now, when to wash your hands? When do we wash our hands? I'm going to ask you. Of course, you don't need to answer me. You just answer in your station. Uh,
There in the comment section.
yeah,
Answered.
there in the comment section, or maybe you don't want to tell everyone about this. During the time that you produce food, maybe today for your 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours of cooking and serving food, how many times did you wash your hands?
Anyway. Ilan nga ba?
How many times did you wash your hands? Okay. When do we wash our hands? So before,
Every time na nasosoil yung hands ko ng, ng mga food, then I wash
so
it.
before we start working, of course, definitely. Before we start working, we
Mm.
have to wash our hands. And then when we touch raw food or high risk food, so when you touch raw food, before handling anything else, your pots, your ladles, or whatever, a plate or your food, your actual food, you have to wash your hands before doing that. During work, between changing gloves, so when you change gloves, you do not just change gloves. You also wash your hands in between. Why? Because most of the time, after you remove your gloves, it's either wet with perspiration or some of the food have infiltrated your gloves because your gloves had a hole in it. That's why you're going to change your gloves. So as much as possible, in between changing gloves, you also wash your hands. And then, whenever your hands look dirty, or every 2 hours, actually for FDA, it's the requirement is every.
Oh, nawala po yung audio niyo, ma'am.
Saan ako nawala? Hello? I'm Iba.
Yan. Ayan.
Ayun. Saan ako
Okay.
nawala? Ayun. Handling raw food,
Oo.
visiting the toilet, which is supposed to be common sense, but sometimes the commonality loses somewhere, somewhere along the way. When we handle raw eggs, so when we handle raw eggs, we have to wash after because from the shell and the possibility of salmonella, though it's low, um, the nutrition coming from your hands makes them grow, and to eliminate the possibility of contamination, we just have to just wash our hands after clearing the tables. And when we do cleaning or dressing our wounds, if we had nahiwa ka. So when you dress your wounds, you have to clean your hands afterwards. Maybe you will ask me, may band-aid o kaya may gasa. So how will I wash my hands? Then it will be wet. So you have to protect the bandage with waterproof material so that you will be able to work again. Because if that's going to be your reason, then how would you make food with an absorbent bandage or dressing. So it's going to be the same. So blood is a contaminant where we do not want to pass on to the customer. So you when you bandage or you dress your wound, you have to cover it with uh, another absorbent material for you to be able to continue on with your operations, including hand washing. And when you cough or you sneeze and accidentally use your hands, kahit nasabi na ni Chef Anthony that we use our elbows, and sabi din ni DOH, di ba, we use our elbows in when we cough or we sneeze. When we touch our face, when we touch our hair, especially when we adjust our hair nets, so we wash our hands after. And ayan, when we throw out the trash, so also, after that, we also have to wash our hands. So that is the times when to wash our hands. So we go back to our question. Earlier
Marami.
today, how many times did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands every time the activity I've mentioned um, has been completed? So it's up to you if you want to share in the comment section or not. So in the food industry also, if you're a direct food handler, as much as possible, for hand hygiene, there should be no nail polish. Kahit na yaan ay clear or colorless na um, nail polish. Why? Because the tendency of it to crack and be included in the food is high, especially if you do hand washing often. Ma'am, paano naman yung uso ngayon, 'di ba? Si mga gel. It's up to you.
Correct.
Pero as much
Mm.
as possible, no nail polish. And ang baduy din ng nail polish, if you don't have long nails, and long nails is not recommended in food service. So no long nails, no artificial nails in the food service, and no jewelry, including your wedding band, even if it's just a plain band. Why? Because keeping your wedding band will have a warm and wet area in your hand that will um, be a very conducive area for microorganisms to grow. So as much as possible, there is no jewelry. Some uses jewelry, uses nail polish. They have long nails, but they have to have gloves over their hands. But then again, if you have long nails, your gloves will be easily torn. So still up to you. But for me, if you're going to ask me, and the requirements of the good hygienic practices under Codex and also Sanitation Code of the Philippines and also the Administrative Order 153, which is the GMP requirements for Philippines, it says there no nail polish, no long nails, no artificial nails, and no jewelry. Okay, it's not just me,
Right.
it's the law.
Mhm. So wala muna yung mga arte-arte natin dyan
Yes.
habang nagbe-bake.
Okay. So I will again be sharing my screen for another video. Ay, what happened?
Share screen po ulit.
Oo nga.
Baka magalit yung viewers natin. Ang dami naman palang requirements.
Marami talaga kasi for us food techs hindi
Mm.
hindi biro when you serve food kasi you're
Yeah.
putting the health of the person dun sa kamay mo. Kaya it's
Mm.
not really easy to. So this one is a video na nauso last year. It's showing how cross-contamination is happening when you do not wash your hands as often as you need to. And of course, when you're outside, when you do not sanitize your hands with alcohol as often as you need to do. So you can see how, kaya nga, whenever I'm out, I don't put gloves. Kasi di ba yung the other people use gloves for parang nagiging ano lang siya, it's just a safety net, but it's not actually protecting you. And this is um the evidence. So she's putting on gloves kasi nga para safe, kasi you're not touching the possible contamination. And then when you hold your cell phone, so it's either you put it in your bag, your cart.
Wala po siyang audio talaga.
Sandali lang.
Di po namin
Kasi
marinig.
ulitin natin. Kasi ako yung walang audio. Right.
Wala rin po. Maybe you can explain it na lang po. Pa-unmute na lang po, ma'am, yung ayan. Wala pa rin. Wala pong audio yung sa ano nyo, yung sa laptop. Naka-increase naman. Maybe you can just explain it na lang, ma'am. Unmute na lang natin tong isa. Unmute mo po yung sa phone. Yung sa phone po.
Ayan.
May nag-feedback. Ayan. Sige nga po, salita ka po.
Okay.
Ayan. Maybe
So,
you can just
explain
explain it to us na lang po. Opo,
Sige.
kasi we can't hear the video.
Sige. Ayan, pupunta daw siya sa grocery. So, dahil nga lalabas siya, maglalagay siya ng kanyang gloves. Lagay siya ng gloves for protection. Kasi nga, dahil sa COVID or whatever, ay nag-iingat daw siya. So, hawak niya yung cellphone niya, punta siya sa grocery, lalagay niya sa bulsa niya, o kaya sa cart niya yung phone niya or sa bag, tapos ikot-ikot na siya.
While
So, okay lang
naka-gloves.
siya kasi, di ba, naka-glove siya. Tapos magkakuha na siya ng mga products na kailangang bibilhin. So yung products na bibilhin niya, maaring nakawakan na ng iba. It has been touched by other people. So there might be microorganisms in that product. So it has been passed on to their gloves, but it's okay because she's wearing gloves. So there's no contamination. So she just goes on, and then somebody texted, and then she's using the cell phone and replying to the text message. So now the cell phone is contaminated with the microorganisms that she has touched. Okay, then she goes on again, doing the rounds, and then her nose itches. Even though we use our mask, sometimes we just put it down and then rub our nose, right? So that happens. And then somebody called, and then the phone touches her face. But then you feel safe because you're wearing your gloves. But actually, in reality, the microorganisms are now spreading. You just feel safe because you're wearing gloves, and you don't feel the need to wash your hands because your hands are clean. And then now, when you dispose it, you have to dispose it in the trash can and not just leave it somewhere else lying around where it can contaminate other people. And then now, after removing the gloves, somebody calls again and somebody texted. He used hands without the gloves, and now the hands are now contaminated. So if you're doing this, if you're using gloves, it's just making you feel safer, but it's actually not because the contamination is still
Still
happening.
there.
Yes, still happening. You're just not aware of it because you don't feel the need to wash your hands because you feel clean just because you have your gloves on. So nagiging safety net lang siya, but it's not actually helping you to to ensure that um, you'll not be contaminated with the virus, or you will not be spreading microorganisms. So that is one of the improper uses of gloves. One, sayang lang. So don't use gloves when you go out. Dagdag gastos lang yan. Promise. You just wash your hands and disinfect.
Yeah.
Correct.
Naisip
Mm.
ko nga rin 'yan nung ano, yung dati sabi nga rin sa akin na gamit daw ng gloves. Tapos nung habang ginagawa ko na, hawak ko rin naman yung sa cellphone, parang wala rin.
Yes. Parang
Na-realize ko
it's like
nga
the
rin
same
yun.
thing that di ba, most of the time we complain about the counter people in the fast food. Why do
Mhm.
they handle money and then they also prepare the food? So it's just the same
Yeah.
thing. So when you use your gloves, it's like handling money and handling the food at the same time without any hand washing in between.
Mhm.
So when we use gloves, use single use and right sized gloves. It can be plastic, it can be nitrite, whatever is good in your hands. As much as possible, it's a good fit. You will be comfortable in using it. It's like you have your hands. And then when to change, according to Chef Anthony, if you're doing a same task, uh, you change every 2 hours. Hindi
Mhm.
po yung isang glove na yon ay maghapon yun ang gamit. And once you remove it, you do not reuse it. Okay? So that's why it's called single use.
Mm.
So when you remove
Correct.
the glove, you don't reuse it. You don't reserve it for later. Okay? So when you remove the gloves, that means you have to dispose of it. So yung removal and disposal, nakita naman natin kanina how she removed. As much as possible, you don't touch the external, so your hands will not be contaminated as much. One of the things that somehow irritates me when I see food handlers um, using the hands, it's like The gloves is protecting the person not to have dirty hands. It's not actually protecting the food.
Mm.
'Di ba kaya nga tayo nag-gloves is for us to protect the food from contamination. But then again, because of our practices, we actually are contaminating the food by using the same gloves in multiple tasks without hand washing or without changing the gloves in between. So when to use bare hands and when to use gloved hands in our operation. So when we use our bare hands as much as possible, we are handling food that will still be cooked. If you want to use bare hands, if you're not used to wearing gloves, you use bare hands when preparing food that will still be cooked. But if you will sell food at frozen state, you still have to wear gloves. So what I'm saying is, if you sell them cooked, you can prepare them using with bare hands when they are not cooked yet. But if you will sell them uncooked, then even if it's raw, you have to have gloves when you prepare your food because your hands are a great area of where the microorganisms can multiply. Okay, when to use gloved hands? Gloved hands you use when you are handling ready to eat food. So ibig sabihin, salads, sandwiches, and all of our food coming out of cooking or baking, this should be handled with gloves. So we owe it to our customers for them to trust us more by providing safe food by using gloves for ready to eat food. Okay po? Like for example, when you eat at a restaurant, would you mind if the person preparing your, like for example, you ordered sandwich or salad? Would you mind if the person preparing your salad or your sandwich prepares your sandwich with bare hands? If yes, then do it for your customers also. You use gloves as respect doon na rin sa ating clients. Okay? Wala naman tayong questions? Okay. So my last video that I will share. Okay. This is a study in Japan. Ito yung similar to what I do in my trainings. What they did is they simulated a buffet area and then they had someone, a person, just one person. They just had one person um, who had a what do you call this? A glow in the dark lotion in his hands. So you will see after 30 minutes of doing buffet style um, dining with 10 others, you will see how contaminated the area is. So this is just one person. So this is an experiment that simulates the cruise ships now. So one person was given a lotion that is glow in the dark that will simulate the microorganisms in his hand. So they dine for 30 minutes, laughing, and then, ayan, after 30 minutes, you can check where the fluorescents are. So, everything that na merong mga glow in the dark has been contaminated by just one person. Imagine just one person, but then they use the same pitcher, they use the same serving spoons. So the contamination has been spread. Just imagine, no? Just imagine if kayo na hindi rin kayo naghuhugas madalas in your operations. Just imagine for 8
Yeah.
hours what will happen in your
Mm.
operation.
So parang habang gumagawa ka, ma-imagine mo na eh, no?
Yes.
Bawat galaw mo. Meron pala
Yes.
tayong question dito, ma'am. Ay, comment
Hmm.
pala na nagda-dry na daw yung hands niya sa kakahugas.
Ayun
So,
nga,
anong ano dun?
kung
Pwede
malakas
lang
kayo sa
mag-lotion
kung
after.
malakas kayo sa cleaning solutions, you can actually ask your suppliers to give you um, yung kasi 'di ba sabi ko kanina lang is the dishwashing liquid and the sanitizer. But you
Mm.
can also ask for hand washing and hand sanitizers coming from the same supplier. So, pwede kayong magpa-recommend ng hand hand soap that protects your hands from drying. Pero hindi nakaka-hamper kasi yung iba yung may mga vitamin E, yung parang iba madulas and you
Mhm.
feel that you will contaminate your products more when you use it. Pero ngayon, there are suppliers of soap solutions that doesn't have that feel. So you still feel clean, but your hands are still protected. And there are also hand soaps that is not good for hard water.
Hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the trivia is Dove.
Yeah. Mm.
Ayun, Dove all over the world has one formulation.
Mhm.
And then when they see that in the Philippines, even if with all our colonial mentality of imported products are very good, Dove is not as high when it comes to meeting their targets of getting their market share. Why? Because most of the areas in the Philippines have hard water. Hard water meaning not non-chlorinated water. It means there are still minerals in your water, yung mga deep well. Kasi 'di ba,
Mhm.
when we use Dove, we feel that it's been 10 minutes of rinsing and it's still um, slippery. And we
Yeah.
still don't
Mm.
feel that the soap has been removed from our bodies. So only in the Philippines did they formulate for a second formulation of Dove applicable for the hardness of the water here in the Philippines. So I'm not
Hmm. Okay.
I'm not selling Dove. Pero what I'm explaining is even in our hand soaps, there's a possibility of your hand soaps um feeling like Dove. Na
Mm.
even if you're rinsed for a long time, the suds are still there and you still feel slippery. So when you have a supplier for the chemicals, the cleaning chemicals that you use, it's best to ask for hand soap that is applicable to the kind of water that you have to eliminate that feeling. Ayun lang.
Okay.
Okay? So that's
FYI.
hand washing and
Nice
hand
to know.
hygiene. So ang haba ng discussion. And
Oo.
I reiterated
Handwashing
this
pa lang
because
yun, eh.
I feel this is very important
Yeah.
because
Mm.
it will affect everything until our last topic. So until your shelf life. So it will affect
Sige.
everything and your product is included in that effect if you do not have a good hand washing and hand hygiene practices. Okay? So
Okay.
that's the end of it. So we proceed with the cleaning and sanitizing or disinfecting program. So doesn't necessarily have to have a program if you have a small business. as long as you know the process. So you have to identify the area which needs to be cleaned, who will clean it, the frequency of cleaning it, the pre-operational cleaning and the post-operational cleaning. Not because you cleaned the night after or the night before when you finished operations the previous day doesn't mean that you have to clean again before starting your day the following day. You have to have post cleaning and pre-operational cleaning because we never know what crawls in the area, or someone from the household has used the area for midnight snack or whatever. So we have to have pre-operational cleaning before we start our work. And then what are the agents for cleaning? Your cleaning solution, your disinfecting solution. When you buy bulk, when you transfer, it's important that you label the containers where you transfer it, because that's one of the good practices in chemical handling. For your people to be safe, for you to be safe, when you transfer chemicals, you have to label the container where you're transferring. Because sometimes when you transfer, usually we reuse um, containers. Like for example, a mineral water bottle, like for example PET. So if it's also clear, like for example, our sanitizing solutions are usually clean, like as clear as water. So if it's not labeled, we may be another ergo incident. Remember the ergo incident? Wherein people were served with a chemical that is used for cleaning the jewelry. So two of the three um, persons who drank the milk tea died because of the effect of the chemicals not labeled and was used as an ingredient in the milk. So it's very important when we use chemicals, when we transfer them from the original container to another container, we label and we identify these chemicals. And then we monitor for effectiveness. For when we monitor for effectiveness, usually for manufacturers, we do swab tests for microorganisms. We check if microorganisms are still thriving in that surface. But of course, I will not recommend that to you unless you want to go um, uh, big scale. So for you, you can test with a clean tissue. Use a clean tissue, and then you wipe it in the surface. If the surface doesn't show that it's clean, then you have to repeat the cleaning. Then for storage of chemicals and the tools, when we do operations, as much as possible, the chemicals that we use for cleaning are stored away from the operations, stored away from the kitchen, and the chemicals and the tools that we use, that the rags, the mop, um, the brooms that we use, is supposed to be stored in away from the kitchen so that it will not cause contamination on our food. Okay. Ma'am, paano naman po yung rags? Because rags are our best friend in the kitchen. But I think Sir Anthony has given highlight on the rags. If you use rags, ensure that these rags are washed and sanitized before you reuse it. Because if you don't use sanitized rags or clean and sanitized rags, we will just be spreading the dirt or the microorganisms coming from that rag to every part of the kitchen. Parang lang yung parang lang yan din ulit hands natin if we don't use the rags properly. Okay? So, if you don't have the time to always wash your rugs, use disposable or single-use towels. Ang gastos naman ni ma'am. Wala po tayo magagawa. That's food safety. And food safety, it's either um, you you save on things, and then wait for the effect afterwards, or you just include it in your costing, and then you ensure that the safety of the food and there's no cross contamination of our hands or the rugs that we use. Okay, so that's cleaning and sanitizing. For waste management, I know uh, it's not still clear, and it's not still innate to us to separate biodegradable and non-biodegradable. But if you can segregate this, it's better. And then if you can also separate recyclables, it's better. You can actually tap um, organizations that collect recyclables, your used oil, your gallons, your carboys, even your Tetra Packs. Other organizations are already collecting those, so you can just set it aside in one area of your yard, so it will be away from your kitchen. Why does it have to be away from your kitchen? Any organic matter, especially your biodegradable food, kept inside your kitchen overnight will attract pests like flies, cockroaches, lizards, spiders, and ang pinakamasakit sa lahat are the rodents. Are mice, yung maliliit, yung mga bubwit, at saka yung talagang rat, yung mahahaba yung buntot. So, any organic matter that is spoiling because of extended time in the TDZ or the temperature danger zones, rotting away in your kitchen is an attractant for pests. So we have to have um, daily removal of waste in the area where we produce food. And this is one of the trademarks. This is one of the new, at least for a decade, a new practice is trademark control. Trademark control is part of the waste management. Whatever your logos are in, are placed in, you have to remove them before you dispose of your trademarks, because that can be a motivation for people to to get money out of you. They can use your packaging and then say that they've been sick because of your product, and they can show the trademark that they used coming from your waste. So most of the time, the manufacturers in the factories adopt the trademark control in their waste management to ensure that the trademarks will not be used inadvertently, lalo na against them. Isa yun sa mga nakikita natin ngayon, di ba? For the fiestas and the banderitas, we no longer have the labeled packaging materials because the companies are already controlling their trademark even for the packaging materials that they distribute. So when we do banderitas now, it's just plain wrappers. It's not a printed packaging material. Okay, and another important thing for waste management, if you're reusing your raw materials packaging, label it. Ensure that you deface or you remove the label in that packaging material so that it will not be mistaken for any other material. Like for example, if you use your craft bags um, as a bag for sweepings of sugar flour, so somebody new in your kitchen might mistakenly add this sweepings as part of the ingredient. Although minsan sabihin natin, tanga-tanga lang naman, di ba? Pero accidents can happen. And for us to remove possibilities of that, let's not use raw materials packaging, or if we use raw material packaging, we label it properly, or we remove the actual label before we reuse the packaging material. Okay?
Okay. Pwede
Next
pa rin
is pest control.
i-recycle. Ganun po ba?
Oh, I'm not against recycling, but when we
Oo.
recycle, we make it a point that it is safe, and we ensure that there
Oo.
would be no possible contamination because of the recycling.
As long
It's
as it's
okay to
properly
recycle.
labeled
Yes,
naman.
as long as it's properly labeled, and as much as possible, it's away from the operation, so that it's not stored together with, like for example, if you're going to use your craft bags from the
Yeah.
milk, from the flours that you use, don't store it beside your flour or your
Mhm.
milk, so that it will not be mistaken for flour or milk. So you use it away from the storage areas where you keep your food. Okay,
Okay.
I'm not against recycling. You can use that,
Mhm.
but one best practice is to label those that you will be reusing. Okay,
Okay.
for pest control, tatlo lang naman yan: identification, control, and then we eliminate. So kasi we cannot eliminate if we do not have control, and we cannot control what we haven't identified. So for you to apply a good practice, you have to identify what pests do I have. What pests do I have? Do I have flies? Do I have cockroaches? Do I have mosquitoes? And then when you have that, then we can apply a better control. Like for example, if it's crawling, you can have uh, available chemical from your groceries for crawling insects. If it's flying, you can buy the flying. But when you use readily available chemicals from the groceries, as much as possible, read the label. Hindi lang sa pagkain mag-read ng label, pati sa pest control chemicals. Why? You read the active ingredient in making the pest control chemical, because every 3 months you can do a cycle and then change the active ingredient for your pest control chemical. Why? Kasi kayo rin naman, 'di ba? Pag parating adobo, hindi kayo natutuwa. Ganun din po ang peste. So we don't feed them the same food over and over again, year in, year out. So you change the bait, you change it so it will be more effective for you. Okay? And then part of the control is preventing access. Don't leave your windows open, don't leave your doors open for extended periods of time. And then we do general cleaning. We move our materials and we move our machines every so often, so that there would be no harborages and infestation in the area. We do regular cleaning, and we remove all possible sources of water, food, and shelter. Kasi whatever sustains us as humans, it also sustains pests, and it also sustains microorganisms. So, tanggalan nyo ng food, tanggalan, kasi nga, di ba, kaya nga peste. Di ba, ang peste, hanggat pwede ka nilang asahan, nandyan yan. Pero pag wala na silang makukuha sa'yo, aalis na yan. O, di ba, hindi hugot yun. Sabi sa ano, it's part of controlling them. When they do not have sources of food and water in your area, they will not stay there. But if you have sources of food and water in your area, then definitely they will think that they are welcome, and they will stay, and they will even multiply in your area. And then you check, you monitor if there would be what are signs of infestation. Usually the stools. So if there would be stools and signs of urine, then you remove that. And then you just look for the areas where they are staying, because most of the time it's just within the area. You just check 15 meters radius o kaya naman ay 25 meters radius. So you just check. Hindi madalas yung nakikita kung hindi kayo madalas naglilinis. Before, I've attended a training that pest control is 80% cleanliness and 20% um, application of chemicals. Kasi we don't actually recommend application of chemicals unless it's really necessary. So to 80% cleaning and then 20% application of chemicals. But now I attended a new training. May bago na. It's 75% good housekeeping, 20% good repair of your facility, and then 5% is the application of the chemicals. Because any facility, if it's conducive for pest access, is welcoming the pest. So kahit anong linis ninyo would still welcome the pest and will make them stay in your area. Okay? And for eradication, generally these are for your pest controllers. And sometimes if you have a coordinator for this, when you monitor the number of pests that you see, is the number of pests declining or is it increasing? So why? So we check for the trends if there would be an increase on a certain month. Why? So we check for the causes and then we eliminate them. Like for example, in areas where there's flooding, generally there would be high incidences of pest activity in the area because the the sewage is filled with water, and those are usually their house, where they stay, where they multiply. And if it's flooding, where will they stay? They will look for a way, and they will look for a new place to stay. And their kitchen is one good way, is one good hotel where food and water is available. So if you see that trend, you ensure that your area is not accessible for pests during these times of flooding or wet season, any wet season, o mga rainy season. Okay? So that's my discussion on food safety tips other than what has been discussed by Chef Joey and Chef Anthony. I hope you've learned a lot. And I hope you're not seeing it as just gastos, but seeing it as um, prioritizing and seeing your customer as the king or the queen in your operation.
Yes, sobrang importante 'tong topic na 'to kaya, pangatlo na 'to, eh. Pero hindi naman na naulit yung ibang mga na-discuss kasi na-discuss na nila yon. So, this would be different naman from the 2 before.
Yes.
And, we
Ilang
have,
beses ko pinanood yung videos nila so that I know na hindi siya naulit.
oo. So, meron naman tayong bagong information ngayon na nakuha,
Yes.
in this one. We have a question here from Donitz. Ano po bang sanitizing solution na pwede namin gamitin for hand towels?
For hand towels.
Mm.
Hand towels as in the rags that we use
Yeah, the
or
rags, yeah.
the rags. It's the same solution. Chlorine is okay.
Mhm. So,
And if you
yung
want
same solution that you're using to,
in the
wash
dishes
your
and the pots and
dishes.
other washers, yes,
Okay.
it can be used there. Unless your chemical solutions suppliers says differently, pwede namang iba. Kasi
Mhm.
syempre iba yung stainless, iba yung cutlery, iba yung garments. Pero if it's generally a chlorine-based solution, it's okay. Can be used
Okay.
ng pareho.
Um, would you recommend po ba yung ano, kasi we have this, UV cabinet na meron din siyang heat. So, is that advisable rin po ba or, not so much?
Mahirap magsalita when it comes to UV kasi UV is a long discussion. Pero sige,
Uh-huh.
UV is okay as sanitizing solution or disinfection tool. Pero kasi we have to assess the strength of the UV. Not because it's
Mm.
UV, it's okay. Dapat yung lahat ng surfaces is exposed to the UV, and then yung strength ng UV is adequate, and the contact time is also adequate. So you have to read your operations manual of the UV cabinet that you use. Also, you have to monitor the time that you use your UV. Kaya siya medyo mabusisi.
Mm.
Kasi the strength of your UV depends on how long you use it.
Yeah.
Usually,
Okay ba yung scent nun? Kasi when I use it, meron nga siyang smell. Tapos ano, safe ba
para
yun?
siyang
Okay lang?
hospital. Para siyang hospital.
Oo.
Ano lang naman siya.
Hindi
Pero
naman siya masama sa
wala
katawan.
naman, hindi naman. Okay naman siya. Yun nga lang kasi nga, you have to monitor the time that you use your UV light. Because in time, the UV rays will weaken and it will not be as effective as when you use it when it was new.
Okay. So, meron din palang gano'n. Kasi
Yes,
ano, so naka-time naman siya 1 hour. Tapos
yun
ano,
yung 1
meron din
hour.
siyang heat.
Pero when you buy the bulb of the UV light,
Oo.
madalas yun, there's a label of how many hours it's going to be effective.
Mm.
So you have to
Tapos yun
monitor
naman.
that. And then when you use it up, you have to change your UV light.
Okay.
It's
Kailangan ko palang
hindi
i-check.
siya forever, walang forever.
Akala ko as long as meron siyang ilaw.
No.
So parang bumbilya rin na bumababa yung lumens niya, yung ganyan,
Yes, yes,
'di ba?
yes.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
so humingi na rin pala yun. Okay, so yun na rin yung sagot
Mm-mm.
sa what can you say of the use ng UV light in production areas as means of sanitizing the area?
It's the same. Depending on the contact time, and you have to ensure that all of the surfaces you need to disinfect is exposed to the UV light.
Mm, correct. Kasi
Kasi
meron din ano,
I used that before when I was doing micro sa laboratory. So we do UV light disinfection sa loob ng laboratory whenever we are not using it. So before we
mm,
do laboratory tests, so that the area is ensured that there would be no microorganisms, even for the air in the area, we do that in the laboratory. So yeah, I
mm,
can recommend it, but you will have to have a study on how effective it will be by ensuring that all of the surfaces that you need to disinfect are exposed, and there has to be a time limit or a minimum time of exposure for it to be effective.
mhm. Okay. I think ma'am, we still have one more topic about
Yes, one
the
more
how
time.
to study and establish the shelf life.
Yes.
Tama ba? Ayan.
Mhm.
So this topic is very interesting din sa mga students namin kasi ang dami sila nagre-request na how do you determine ba yung shelf life nung isang product, yung ganyan. Lagi
Yes.
lang tanong in every class that we have, what's the shelf life? What's the shelf life? So, yun, maybe you can answer that for them.
Eto, medyo
Sige po,
mahaba
ma'am.
rin yung topic na 'to, pero sige, as long as you are awake, as long as, you have, you want to understand it,
Yeah.
we're good to go. Okay?
Sige
So,
po,
shelf
ma'am.
life. What is shelf life? So, as defined by, a reference that I saw, shelf life is a guide for the consumer of the period of time that food can be kept before it starts to deteriorate, provided any stated storage conditions have been followed. So this is aligned with what Sir Chef Joey mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Ang sabi dito is before it starts to deteriorate. So yeah, the shelf life of a product begins from the time the food is prepared or manufactured. Its length is dependent on how many factors, including the types of ingredient, manufacturing process, the type of the packaging, and how the food is stored. It is
Mhm.
indicated by labeling the product with a date mark. Okay. Nakita na natin dyan, sabi maraming factors ang shelf life. And you cannot copy the shelf life of somebody else and apply it as
Mhm.
your own. Because there would be a lot of factors. Like, for example, sabi nga dyan, is the type of ingredients. You cannot ensure that your ingredients is the same with the ingredients that the other um, business is using. Yes, it might
Mhm.
be the same when it comes to the classification of the food, but the quality of the food may differ. Like, for example, all-purpose flour is all-purpose flour, but different suppliers mean different qualities. There are low-cost all-purpose flour and premium all-purpose flour, and even for butters, and even for cocoa powders. So it will be dependent on the type of ingredients that you use. Sabi nga natin, bad in cannot be good out. So it has to be good in for it to be good out. Pero ako, ang sinasabi ko, bad in can be good out, pero it will cost you. Kasi nga, the processes for it to be good, you will have to make a lot of adjustments. Okay? So the type of ingredients is one factor. Next is the manufacturing process. How do you process it? So everything that we've discussed in the food safety tips, the fatom, the hand washing, the pest control, the waste management, the time and temperature combination, the cooking process, all of this have an impact on your shelf life. How you process it, including your hand hygiene. Kasi if you will not practice what we've discussed earlier in detail, the deterioration of your product will be abrupt or shorten yung shelf life mo. Kasi the multiplication of the microorganisms will be um, encouraged because there will be a lot of growth because you have mishandled your products by not practicing good hand hygiene. And then the type of packaging. If you cover a cake or nga cake, sige. If you cover a ensaymada with plastic labo and a glassine, what would think will keep longer? So it will depend on the type of the packaging that you use. Or not glassine, let's say a COPP or a PE. So what packaging will keep it longer? So definitely a better packaging, not the plastic labo. And how the food is stored. If the food requires refrigeration or chilling or freezing, then follow that. If the food requires just room temperature, again, even for pantry and room temperature, there are conditions to be met. Hindi yung room temperature Pilipinas style. So as mentioned by Chef Joey, ang pag sinabing room temperature, it's between 17 to 27. So anything higher than that may cause your food to deteriorate much faster than it should be. So ayun. So that is shelf life. So yun yung definition pa lang ng shelf life. So is shelf life related to food safety? Definitely yes. Because when your food deteriorates faster than it should be, then it's somehow a misleading information to your customer. Like for example, if you say that your product shelf life is 3 days or 7 days, if you have mishandled it, if you didn't use the proper packaging, if you didn't use the proper storage, then that 7 or 3 days will be shortened to 2 days or 5 days. And when they consume it, still within the declared shelf life, they might have an adverse health condition, health effect. The food might have an adverse health effect on the consumer. Kaya it is related. The food shelf life is related to food safety.
Mhm.
So, related siya.
So, so hindi pala pwedeng ano, pare-parehas kami ng
hindi
ano.
hindi kayo
Hmm,
pwedeng
experts.
manggaya. I mean,
Mhm.
yun yung there are theoretical guidelines, like for example, dairy, prepare dairy,
Mhm.
when used and opened, as much as possible, you use it within 3 days. For other
Mhm.
foods, cooked and stored in the chiller, you can use it in 7 days. Some have just declared it 15 days. Mga ganon.
Mhm.
May theoretical guideline on that. But then again, the difference in the kitchen processes and how you handle it have a big impact. So you can use that, but then you have to confirm it by your own.
Mhm.
Ito na yung isang style, which is the theoretical. This is not actually recommended kung scientific ang gusto natin. Pero for small businesses, you can start with this. For you to ensure that you are selling your products na safe pa rin naman. Um, Theoretical. You research for the or ideal shelf life of the product that you. Ma'am, paano pagbago yung product? It's very innovative. It's just my product. So what you do is you go to the category. If it's a brioche, if it's a cake, if it's pound cake, if it's chiffon, you go to the category. Well, based on that category, what is the usual shelf life? Based on the storage condition. So you do that. And then you make your food, you follow that shelf life, but every day you check the condition of your product. So you don't just produce one. For you to check the product, you produce multiple products.
Mhm.
And then you get one, you store it in the same condition. Like for example, if you have leche flan, you store it in the chiller for 0 to 4 degrees. And then how long do you want your leche flan to last? If it says 1 week based on the category or 2 weeks, um, you make the number of based on the number of days you make that much, and then every day
Mhm.
you are going to take out one product and you taste it. You before you taste it, you inspect it. Are there differences in the color, in the odor, how it smells? It's if it is it different? Is there cracking already? Is the texture different already? Is the aroma different already? So, kasi 'di ba, if we're going back to the definition, before it starts to deteriorate. So, meaning the shelf life, if you do not have a scientific study shelf life, as much as possible, you compare 1 day old to a newly produced. You compare 7 days old to newly produced. You compare 14 days old to newly produced. If they are exactly the same, then that is your shelf life. But if it
Mhm.
already has deterioration, then your shelf life has ended. Okay? So that
Okay.
is just for sensory attributes. Sensory, meaning organoleptic, visual, by odor, if it's applicable by hearing, like for chicharon, di ba? By hearing the crunch in your, let's say, croissant. So by yung mouth feel,
Mhm.
the texture, the mouth feel when it comes to butter and oil is the oil and the butter have a rancid feeling already. Does it form in in your tongue as a whole fat na parang it's icky already? So it means deterioration has already onset, and your shelf life has
Mhm.
ended.
So
So
dun ka
for
po
you,
magsa-start ng ano,
yun
shelf life mo?
yung informal, yung
Mm.
theoretical and informal century. So yun
Okay.
yung pwede ko lang masuggest for beginners na syempre we don't have budget for testing and laboratory testings. So for a kick-off and you want to sell products safely, yun yung gagawin muna natin. We will base it on the sensory attributes that we can observe. So like for example, I'm going to sell leche flan and I want to have a shelf life of 2 weeks. So I will be making leche flan 15 pieces of the leche flan. I will store it in the same container that I will sell it. So same conditions. All of the conditions will be the same. The packaging, the size of the material that I'll be selling. So everything has to be the same. So every day for 15 days, I will be producing one batch of leche flan and I will compare each of the leche flan in the newly produced leche flan. If I reach into 15 days and it's still comparable to the newly produced, then I can say that safely my product is okay for 15 days. But then
Mhm.
again, the problem with this is not all spoilage organisms have a foul smell. So
Hmm.
some spoilage organisms doesn't show and may have already an impact. Like for example, those that have that produce toxin.
Mm.
The pathogens usually produce toxins. And like for example, if you have peanut butter in your products, peanut butter is known for mycotoxins. And these mycotoxins may have an effect on your consumer. And this doesn't really, hindi lang siya basta maanta. Toxin siya, meaning it is harmful. It can be
Mhm.
deadly to the consumer. So these cannot be tested by mere sensory evaluation. So that is
Mhm.
the warning when it comes to just doing theoretical and sensory evaluation, informal sensory evaluation. That is the
Okay.
warning for the shelf life ng informal.
Mhm.
Kaya you can do that, but then again, yun nga, for um, toxic toxin formers and mga spoilage organism that doesn't smell, yun yung hindi natin siya madedetect using the theoretical or the informal sensory uh, practice.
Mhm.
Pero that
So
one,
what
you
should
can
we
do.
do kapag ganun po?
Yun yung una na pwede niyong gawin. Kasi 'di ba, kung gagawin niyo sarili niyong ginitig, kung wala naman nangyari sa inyo, maaaring pwede naman na siya. But then again, you
Oo.
may want to um, save for an initial testing of the product so that you will
Mhm.
be proceeding to the next level of the shelf life study. Okay? So yun
Okay.
yung first level pala. Pagka kayo ay beginner, ganun lang siya. Pero again, ang warning dyan is some of the spoilage organisms are not detectable by mere sensory attributes. And also, once a toxin is formed, you will never know and you might not even taste it. So you might be
So
serving food
sa panlasa
with
natin
free
okey?
toxin. Oo, sa panlasa natin okay siya, pero yung pala may toxin ka na sinaserve kasama yung pagkain. So that
Oh,
is
okey.
scary.
Uh-huh.
Kaya nga we are laughing on our bashers as food techs. 'Di ba sabi nila, "Uy, food tech ka, pagka-graduate mo pwede ka na magtayo ng restaurant o kaya pwede ka na magtayo ng bakery." Na parang, if I am a food tech, I will actually not divulge into that, lalo na small scale.
Mm.
Kasi it's costly producing food and ensuring that it is safe. It's not
Okay.
it's
Mhm.
not that easy as a responsibility. Napakabigat na
Mhm.
responsibilidad producing safe and quality food.
Mm.
Kaya
Paano po yung ano, scientific
scientific,
scientific
ayan,
way?
we go to the
Mm.
scientific na process. So, isa sa mga nag-affect sa ating shelf life is the microbial growth, 'di ba? So, ang scientific is you send it out to the laboratory. Yung kung paano siya ginawa doon sa bahay mo, you produce a certain a certain number, you send it out to a laboratory, and then you tell them your target shelf life. And then they will
Mhm.
proceed with testing and based on the frequency that you want them to test, because every test costs. Siguro general tests for each product maybe about 5,000. So
Hmm.
one testing
For
is
each test
no. Yung
or
ano na siya, it's like a group test
as a
na siya
whole? Oh,
as a
okay.
whole. An average 5 to 7,000 per product depending on the criticality of your product.
Mhm.
So 5,000 to 7,000 per testing. So if you want to
Mm.
have a 2 week or sabihin natin 6 month shelf life or 1 month shelf life, you will not do it as frequent as you did it sa bahay mo. You will do it
Mm.
like for example weekly. You will ask them to do the testing weekly so that you will be informed on the deterioration of the product based on the increase of microbial growth and then the deterioration of the physical chemical or the attributes, the parameters that your products have. Andyan yung mga pH level, andyan yung sweetness level, saltiness level, the crunch. Kasama na rin dyan ang sensory evaluation. Yung sensory evaluation, the sensory evaluation that the laboratory will be doing is a formal sensory evaluation. What do you say formal? These evaluators are trained evaluators. They have studied eating. They have studied eating in a scientific manner.
Okay.
Masakit sa ulo ang scientific sensory evaluation. And
Oh.
this trained panelists, as they call them, are very good in detecting differences, even very very slight differences in color, in aroma, in the sound when you have bitten in your when you have chewed your food, the mouthfeel when you chew it, how it tastes like, does it leave a grainy feeling in your tongue, does if you serve a spicy food, does the intensity of the spiciness the same as a newly produced one? Is the spiciness gradually increasing or does it pops out immediately? So those are all of the parameters that they would look into. So
Okay. So
I
sila yung magiging guinea pig mo?
yes, sila yung
Gano'n
magiging
ba?
guinea pig mo.
Sila
But
na. Okay.
after knowing that the microbial growth is still within the level acceptable by our FDA. So
Mhm.
the laboratory will not serve the panelists food that is already spoiled. So the microbial tests will come before the sensory evaluation.
Oo, okay.
Ayun.
Pero naman pala akala ko ise-serve pa rin kapag
Hindi na. After the testing has been done, the
oo.
microbiological testing, dun pa lang sila magpapasensory sa kanil sa ano. Okay? So
Okay.
you will just have
So,
to send it out unless you
sa
have
mga
the capacity.
laboratory.
Bawa, you have increased your production, your volume, and you want to
Mhm.
do it on your own. You can set up microbiological laboratories, but mind you, this is no small feat. A microbiology laboratory costs
Mhm.
siguro 5 million above. That
If you
will
want
just
to
be
set
a
up
small,
your own.
if you want to set up your own, and that will just be a small
Oo.
micro lab,
Mhm.
complete with the equipment and everything. That would be maybe more or less 5 million. So
Okay.
maybe just send it
So,
out.
magse-send na lang ako.
Send out samples na lang. And then the
So,
panelists,
each product.
before you become a trained panelist, there would be series of trainings for you to be accustomed to the flavor and the expectations of the consumer. Because syempre,
Mhm.
we want the consumers to have a say on our products.
Yeah.
So that will form part of the sensory evaluation. So, yun.
Okay. So,
So, ganun siya
you have to send out
kabusisi. Ganun siya
sa ano. Opo. So, you have to send out your products sa laboratory. And saan po itong mga laboratories na to?
You can check with FDA and DOH on their accredited laboratories. They have a list on their website, and then you just have to inquire if they can do both para sabay na. The
Mhm.
microbiological testings and sensory evaluation. Yung iba, they don't wait for halimbawa, if you're targeting a 6 months shelf life, they don't wait for the 6 months already. There is also such a thing called as accelerated shelf life. For
Wala ka po.
accelerated shelf life, the laboratory has this tool that exposes your products in parameters wherein your product deteriorates faster. They can may heat, anything. Maraming mga
Mhm.
factors na ipapasok dun sa machine na yon that your product deteriorates, simulating the length of time that it has to
Yeah.
be stored. So in just a shortened period of time, you will know the shelf life if it can last for 6 months or 1 year or whatever shelf life that you want to declare.
Mm. So, they don't have to wait naman na 6 months or
Yes.
1 year.
But accelerated shelf life has added cost. Kasi parang
Iba
premium
pa
siya.
yun.
Yes.
Mhm. Kasi it's faster
It's
nga.
different when you wait and it's different when you want it now or you want it earlier.
Okay. So, mas okay na rin yun. Kasi ano, instead na ikaw mismo yung gagawa on your own
Yes.
sa
Yes.
sa house nyo, mas safe ka if you
Oo.
really want to go big time, 'di ba?
Yes.
Do they help you ba? So for example, hindi mo na meet yung target shelf life mo. Do they help you what do they advise things to add
No,
to your
no,
product?
no.
No?
That is where the food tech comes in again.
Oh, okay.
Because the food tech you can hire to check what happened. Why didn't you meet the shelf life?
May nawawala ka po.
Nawawala ako. Ayan. The food tech will
Ayan.
now help you understand
Oo,
what happened to
nagcho-choppy
your
ka
product.
na.
Nagchuchubby ako. Okay na?
Mm.
Hello? Hello?
Ayan. Yes,
Ayan.
okay po.
Ayun. The
May
food tech will help
konting
you
lang po, may
assess.
konting delay lang.
Ayan. The food tech will help you to assess what happened in your processing area. Why
Hmm,
um, your product didn't meet your target shelf life. Sometimes, your food tech can recommend a change of packaging, a change in the process step,
mhm.
or an addition of a preservative so that you will be able to meet your target. But some of the products are really not for long shelf life. So we have to accept that.
Yes.
Mm-mm.
So maganda na yung gumawa ng fresh, 'di ba? Tsaka
Yes.
yung just do yung kung ano lang yung kailangan.
Yes.
Wag
Actually,
naman yung mag-overproduce not unless you want to
especially for
supply.
small businesses, I
Mm.
would recommend na you do small batches. You do
Mm.
the quantities that you need to produce or you can easily dispose of by selling kaysa yung you keep more and then it will deteriorate under your wing, and it will just be an attractant to the pest. Like for example, if you want to produce more, definitely you will buy more ingredients, and more ingredients will will be there as an attractant to pests na
Mhm.
it would cost you. Lalo na if there would be deterioration in the products because of pest damage. And
Mhm.
ito pa. What would you do if there are signs of rodent activity in your bag of flour? Like for
Mm.
example,
Mm.
the bag of flour or the bag of milk, may nagkaroon siya
Agad.
ng hole underneath
Mhm.
because it was scratched by a rodent, and it's a big
Mhm.
hole. What would you do? Some say, I will just chop off. I will just chop off the area where the hole is, and then use the remaining parts
Rest.
of the flour or the sugar. But
Oh.
I would ask you, if the rodent was able to damage that, how sure are you that it didn't roam around it?
Mhm.
How sure
So
are
you have
you that
to.
the rodent didn't make your sack a playground for you to consume other parts that doesn't have holes in it?
Uh,
So definitely, if you have rodent activity in a bag of powdered ingredient, you will
mhm.
have to throw it out. I'm sorry.
So kahit na isang sako pa yan, kabibili mo pa lang. Tapos
Yes,
nun na-timingan ka,
yes.
nangat-ngat, grabe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Mm-mm.
throw it away. Yes.
Kaya having a big inventory is not actually um, cost efficient sometimes.
Mm. Yes. So, kaya dapat you have to maintain cleanliness sa area, sa area ninyo.
Yes. And it's good to really move things on a given frequency, because not moving things makes it friendlier for pests to stay there.
Right.
Wala namang
So,
bantay.
how, how often do you do general cleaning? What's
if you
advisable?
do if you do daily activities, daily cooking, once a week at least.
Na general cleaning talaga.
Yes, general cleaning. You move things,
Mhm.
you clean under everything.
Yeah. Okay. So, once a week dapat ang ano,
Minimum. And if you can do it
minimum.
every day, why not? Pero yung talagang
Oo.
general cleaning that you move things, you move the racks away once a week.
Okay. Sige. Gagawin ko 'yan. Once a week. Okay.
It
Sige.
helps kalabugin mo yung lahat ng pwede nilang taguan.
Mm. Para para hindi
They
naman
won't
nga sila
stay, oo.
mag-stay. Right. Okay. Eto ma'am. We have a question here. How do we ensure or clean ready-to-use pans, tin cans? Kasi I tried washing the foil pans, nasira yung form. Ay, yung mga kabibili mo lang sa grocery, tapos nun, do you still have to wash it? Ganun, bago gamitin? Or what? Ganun po ba? Dapat.
Mm, you can research on the material, and then you
Mm.
can apply sanitizing solution, either siguro yung mga food grade alcohols, or yung low level chlorine solution. Kasi
Mhm.
ang for food contact, 100 ppm of chlorine solution is okay. But if it will tarnish your packaging material, then maybe a food grade alcohol is the way to go to just wipe your material or your packaging material.
Mm, okay. So may food grade alcohol pala. Saan
Ang
nakakabili nun?
food grade kasi, eto kasi
Ano
ang
yun?
isa kasi sa mga madalas na nagiging misconception on the food grade.
Mm,
Sometimes I hear food grade naman yan, pwede yan kainin. No.
mm,
Food grade, it means it can be used in the operations of food manufacturing as long as it will not be added directly to the food. If in
mm,
the event that it touches the food, like for example, food grade lubricants or like for example, food grade alcohol, if it touches, it has to be safe for humans in the event
mm,
that they would be able to consume the food. It means
mm.
hindi siya ingredient. You can
Mm.
use it in the food operations but not add it directly to the food.
Okay.
Yun yung
So,
food
dito
grade.
po sa ano, sa question niya na foil,
Mhm.
foil pan yung gamit o kaya yung mga nabibiling tin cans, yung mga sa cake and tin
Mhm.
cans ngayon, 'di ba? Yung gano'n, you wash it with a solution before using it. You wash it and then just tataob mo lang to
You
dry.
can do that. You can
Air
do
dry.
washing. I think the tin cans can be washed.
Yes.
But you have to dry it immediately because there's possibility of frosting pagka nagkaroon ng air sa water. But
Mhm,
I don't think that's applicable for the loaf, the loaf
mhm.
pans na aluminum.
Yeah, yung mga
So,
foil pans, how do you clean them now?
I've seen, sa ngayon kasi, parang, ang kagandahan kasi, ng may supplier ka is you can trust your supplier to ensure cleanliness. Lalo na if your
Mhm,
supplier is direct from the manufacturer. Pero if you cannot, lalo na you're just buying retail, then
mm.
maybe yes, just look for a healthier chemical that you can use in wiping out the surface area of the
Of the product.
the tin can. Yung iba naman, they just wash it off. And
Puwede
then
bang hot
since
water lang?
kasi if it's going to be baked in, if you're applying heat din naman, okay na siya.
Mm,
You just clean it
hmm,
as usual. You just do you parang you apply dishwashing and then you sanitize. Yung mga parang, okay, you just sanitize. And then you
mm,
bake with it. Pero yung iba kasi na may ready to eat lang, like for example, mga refrigerated na graham. Di ba?
yung
Mga
mga
mango
no-bake,
graham o yung
ah,
mga no cook. For a no cook, yun yung medyo scary. So if you can look for a solution that is food grade and it's okay for application sa inyong packaging material, and then okay,
mhm,
you can use it.
mhm. Would you recommend na ano, hot water na lang or um, may halong vinegar solution, with
Okay
water?
lang, but you just have to dry it siguro.
Mm. Okay. So you can use that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, another question here from Stephanie. Are the cleaning soaps from the grocery not enough to clean the pots, pans, sink, etc.? Yung mga ano, Joy. Yan,
Pwede, pwede,
pang-patak.
pwede. Pwede, pwede,
Yan,
pwede.
puwede naman na.
Pwede naman, lalo na if you're just consuming parang small amounts. Pero if you want
Oo.
to have a good efficiency on the cleaning and you want to ensure na pareho pa rin siya, then you can look for a supplier. Pero kung maliit lang, then ano,
Mm. Puwede
yung,
puwede naman na yung
yung nasa
mga
grocery na
dishwasher mo.
ready,
Oo.
dishwashing liquid.
Mm. Pero if you're,
You just
in a
follow the instructions,
restaurant,
ha?
gano'n.
You just follow the instructions din. Kasi
Hmm,
ang one of the concerns when it comes to not following the instructions is one, it may not be as efficient
mm.
as it has been recommended, and two, for disinfectants or cleaning solutions, if we use stronger concentrations, we might be causing the microorganisms to mutate. Parang
Mhm.
antibiotic,
Mhm.
'di ba? We are not recommended to take antibiotics unless it's prescribed.
Mhm.
Otherwise, when we really need to have antibiotics, we're going to need a stronger antibiotic or a more expensive antibiotic. So let's not make microorganisms stronger by applying more than what is recommended. Parang we're making them um, stronger by applying stronger liquids na ano na nila, lumalakas din yung immune system nila dun sa
Gano'n. Nasasanay na sila.
nasasanay sila, yes. They get
Oo.
immune, so parang we're mutating. I mean,
Mm.
like for example, for this COVID, 'di ba? Where do you think the mutation comes from? Maaring mutation is coming from the genes dahil iba-iba yung race. Pero there's
Mm.
also possibility of the the surviving rate is based on the because of the chemicals that used for sanitizing is not as strong. So they build more
Mm.
stamina, they build more parang ayun. Kaya iba-iba.
Hmm.
So let's not
Okay.
complicate things by just following the instructions of our chemicals. It's very important to always read the label, be it chemical or your your pest controls, pest
Hmm.
control chemical, cleaning chemical. We read the label, not only for those that you consume, but also those that you use in the food production.
Okay. Right. Um, Another question here from Shari. Use of theoretical shelf life study for high-risk food products like fermented dry sausages. Much better po ba na subject ito sa scientific like accelerated shelf life testing?
Yes, yes, very much. Um, for you to know if your product is high risk or low risk or medium risk, you can check FDA for their classification of the food. And then if your food is high risk, I also highly recommend that you do the laboratory testing than the theoretical testing only.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because the reason why you are classified as high risk because the proliferation of the pathogens and the bacteria are higher than those of the low risk.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to
So,
ensure that we are providing safe food, yes, you go through the laboratory testings.
okay. So, for those people na gusto nilang um, yung pumasok sa grocery, yung mga ganyan, tapos nun mag-supply sa mga different stores, tapos they require longer shelf life. So, yung mga ganun, do they need to hire a food tech to help them with that? Or hindi naman?
Hindi naman. Initially, hindi naman. Pero
Uh,
if you want to do it right, then maybe consult with a food tech. Kasi ang process would be you getting a training series from FDA and you comply with the document requirements of FDA. And then when you do the shelf life study, you adopt what has been discussed by Chef Joey, Chef Anthony, and tonight, and then
mhm.
you do the shelf life study. Uh, After that, you can do it already. Pero if you want to do it right, na hindi pa ulit-ulit, then hire somebody to help you out in the process. Because sabi nga sa isang napanood ko na video, your lola's recipe might be very good, but the process might be outdated.
Mhm.
So the sanitary and safetyness of the product that you are producing might not be applicable for the new generation because a lot of change in our area. and in the technologies that we apply, and the quality of the foods that is being supplied also. So you might want to have a deeper understanding on the requirements by tying up with a food technologist.
Right. So, para ano, just to save you time na rin, 'di ba? Sa
Yes,
pagte-test ng sarili ninyo,
yes,
ano na lang kayo para to be safe, ano, maayos na siya from the start pa lang. So, if you're serious, in this business, if you want to make it big, goes to the grocery and supply to different stores, then, you have to do it right na from the start,
yes.
'di ba?
And kung ayaw nyo talaga kasi gusto nyo talagang secret ang inyong recipe,
Mhm.
you do the studying yourself.
Mm. You have to give your recipe to the food tech, gano'n po ba?
Um,
Kung para malaman
kasi if
kung ano?
you will apply, kasi ang minimum requirement actually ngayon with the Food Safety Act of the Philippines, ang minimum requirement actually is HACCP or the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. If we will interpret the requirements, because the requirement states that you have to adopt a scientific process to ensure that safety of your food is ensured. So scientific
Mhm,
process is HACCP. Kasi GMP is
mhm,
just the basics. It's just practices. It's just good practices to ensure the sanitation and safetyness of your foods. Pero yung
mhm,
scientific study of the overall process is applying HACCP. And for you to apply HACCP, you will have to be open with your formulation. Kaya if you
okey.
want
So,
to
everything
keep
pala.
your formulation secret, it's either you do an NDA or non-disclosure agreement with your tie-up na food technologist,
Mhm,
or you do it yourself. You study. There are a lot of startups that studies basic food handling and yung mga requirements on on studying the business and the safetyness of the food. Kasama na
mhm,
yun. So you will do the studying yourself, and then you
hmm,
will do your shelf life studies on your own together with a laboratory partner. At least you would not be given tests that are
mhm,
unnecessary because you understand the process. And
hmm,
you will do it in the right manner, in the right timeline that you want to do it.
mhm.
You do it yourself.
Okey.
You study.
So, puwede naman pala.
Pwede naman. But
Oo,
I'm sure with all your schedules ng startup and everything, I doubt
mm,
that you will have the time unless you really want to keep your recipe secret.
mhm. So, yung mga, before you pass sa FDA pala and also dun sa, with the food tech, you have to tell them everything about your formulation. So,
Yes.
kailangan pala yun. Okey, sige.
Pero
Fair
ano
enough
naman,
naman. Safe para ano nila, alam nila,
ang
'di
food
ba?
techs naman can be trusted with your recipe. If you tell
Mhm,
them that you have no disclosure, we can keep it a secret
mm,
naman. You can trust us.
okey. So, pa-sign na lang ng NDA,
Oo, sign na
non-disclosure
lang kayo ng
agreement.
NDA para
Oo,
ano rin.
correct. Para safe rin kayo,
Yes.
'yan. Okay. So ito po, question from Olivia So. Puwede po ba or safe po ba gamitin to sanitize ang hydrogen peroxide solution mixed with water?
I've heard it being used, pero kasi dito sa
Mhm,
Pilipinas, it's no longer recommended. And ang problem kasi dyan, if you're going to mix it with water, are you going to mix it by weight or by volume? How do you ensure that concentration is proper and within the regulated quantities? Kaya hanggat
mhm.
maaari, it's not recommended anymore.
Anymore. So dati puwede,
Dati pwede.
yun
Maraming pwede
lang.
dati. Pero because of
Oo,
abuses in the use, marami na rin na pagbawal.
Mhm.
Kaya nga
So,
wala na rin, o kaya hindi na siya available, di ba? Na over the counter. Kasi it's a regulated chemical already.
talaga? Yung hydrogen peroxide? Yun
Hindi
ba
ba?
yung agua
Yung pang,
oxygenada?
na,
Is it the same thing ba?
yes.
Parang nakabili ako dati.
Dati, oo, pero ngayon parang wala na masyado. Unless
Kasi,
unless it's prescribed. Or pagdating sa chemical grade, baka wala na. Tingnan
mhm.
natin kung merong food grade. Kasi,
Okay.
siyempre, as much as possible, we want to use food grade chemicals. Lalo na
Mm.
for food contact surfaces.
Mhm. Okay. So, another question from Shari. Should we use a different sanitizer from time to time to avoid microbial resistance?
Wala naman. You just have to follow the concentration.
Okay. Concentration on what is stated on the label.
Yes,
Tama
what is
ba?
stated on the label.
Okay. Kasi in every chemical, every
Yes.
different yung formulation. Okay,
Yes.
so you just have to follow what's on the label. So itong different sanitizer, wala naman. Pero yung sinasabi mo kanina is yung for pest control. Yun yung dapat
Yes.
may variety.
May variety.
So, yun
If you can
yun.
change every 3 months, better. Don't change frequently kasi they will notice and
Baka
they will
makakahalata naman sila.
didedmahin din nila kasi alam nila na lason to para sa akin.
Oh, okay. Yun na
Um,
talaga tong mga to.
especially for the rodents. Rodents are very, very
Yeah.
wise.
Okay. So every 3 months,
Every 3 months.
yung for pest control na kung anong pest control man ang gagamitin niyo every 3 months.
Yes, you check for the active ingredient and you change chemicals every 3 months.
Okay. Sige, we'll keep that in mind. Yan. So, is there any other questions pa, guys? Tanong lang kayo. Just type it in the comment section if you have any burning questions. Okay. Ayan, meron na si Charmy ulit. Sanitizers dapat po ba one day use lang? Di ba pwede magtimpla? Good for 1 week.
Yes, yes. Sanitizers, if you want the right potency, you make it fresh. Kasi
One lang, one day.
nagde-dissipate ang strength niya in time.
Mhm.
So, if you can prepare daily, you prepare daily. If you don't want to prepare daily, prepare every other day. Kasi small lang naman operations natin. I don't think we have to simplify matters by preparing for 1 week. Baka
Mhm.
at the end of the week, it's not as potent anymore and it's not as effective.
Okay. Sanitizers meaning yung mga chlorine solution?
So, the
Yun po ba?
solutions, yes.
So you do it
Lalo na
daily.
if you use it in pails. Kasi
Mm-mm.
any oxygen might oxidize it and deteriorate the quality of your. Kasi anything that would use the sanitizing strength of your chemical is
Mhm.
deteriorating the chemical.
So hindi siya pwede yung lagay mo sa spray bottle tapos good for isang linggo na yon tapos hindi pwede ganun.
For the spray bottle, siguro pwede naman yung 1 week. Pero
Oo.
if you have
Pag
the
nasa mga
testing
pills.
kits, yung mga test strips of how strong is your chlorine solution. If you have that, you can test it and you can verify if gaano yung deterioration niya in 1 week. Pero
May testing kit pala.
may test strips yan. Nga lang, hindi kasi siya, for those available in the market, walang partner kasi hindi mo naman itetest yan for household cleaning eh. pero
Hmm.
pero kung gagamitin niyo siya for business, you might want to look for chlorine test strips sa Lazada or sa Shopee if there would be available. and
Mm-hmm.
you test the strength of your test strips. For food contact surfaces, it's supposed to be a minimum of 100 ppm.
Okay. So, hindi siya yung nabibili sa Mercury, Watsons, ganyan.
Hindi pa ako
Walang
nakatry
ganon.
kasi most of the time na yung mga test strips ko is coming from the laboratory suppliers. Yung mga
Mm-mm.
consumable laboratory supplies. Dun galing sa laboratory suppliers namin.
Mm-hmm.
Kaya I
Okay.
haven't tried buying it ngayon na ano, na nasa over the counter o kaya ay through Lazada. Pero I've seen parang meron yata sa Lazada or sa Shopee.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Question from Steph. For small businesses, where can we get these cleaning materials? Is there a recommendation what to get? Oo nga, kasi wala naman kaming access din sa mga laboratories or
You
kung saan
have!
man, ano, 'di ba? Meron
You
ba?
have!
Hindi ko alam.
You
So,
have!
what's your
um,
recommendation sa ganyan? Where can we get
for
those cleaning
cleaning,
materials? Oo.
it's good to, also if you can apply color coding.
Mhm.
Tapos, cleaning the color coding tools together. Huwag yung magkakaibang colors ay pagsasama-samahin nyo. Oh, dilaw kung dilaw, pink kung pink, marang ganyan. You
Yeah.
clean them together by color. And then, you can buy it, I think, kung medyo
Meron ako
mas
niyan.
affordable.
Nag-start na ako.
Meron sa
Nag-start na
Shopee,
ako
tsaka
ng
meron
ano,
sa ano. I just don't want to name suppliers. Baka sabihin sa akin ng mga
yung mga
suppliers I have
brands.
bias. Pero meron sa Shopee,
Meron,
I've seen suppliers in Shopee
oo.
and Lazada.
Yung mga
You just
ano,
you just type in
towels.
industrial cleaning tools.
Okay, yes. Pwede yung gano'n.
Industrial
And
cleaning tools. Sa labas na yon.
actually, meron kami doon sa shop namin, sa Bailiwick shop, ng ano, ng towels. Um, yung brand na Hagens. Yun, maganda. Tapos color-coded siya. We started using that nga dito sa bahay namin. Kasi nga sabi ko,
Mhm.
iba yung pamunas natin dun sa plate, iba yung pamunas dun sa hands, iba yung pamunas natin sa mesa. Sabi ko,
Yes,
dapat
yes,
ganun,
yes.
dapat ganun tayo
Yes,
dito
it
sa bahay.
actually
Sabi ko,
helps. It actually
oo.
helps even for household. Like for example, when you're cleaning toilets, iba yung
Mm,
pang walls and floors, iba yung pang toilet,
yes.
iba yung pang sink.
Oo.
Kasi you can just
Oo.
imagine if you're just using the same cleaning tool from your
Mm.
toilet down to your sink where you brush your
Yun nga.
teeth. Di ba?
Oo.
Di ba parang
Correct. Yun. Kaya ano, na-appreciate ko yung ano, yung color-coded. Kasi nga nung una, ano, halo-halo lang yung mga ano, mga towels. Tapos hindi ko na alam kung saan nagamit yun. Hindi ko
Mm-mm.
na alam kung ano. Kaya nangyayari, parang everyday nagpapalit kami ng towels. Ganyan. Tapos yun nga, aside doon sa color-coded siya, everyday nagpapalit pa ng towels. Tapos, ni-UV ko pa. Parang mga, ano na eh, uh, paranoid na sa germs. Yan. Sabi nito ni Elena, Ecolab ang supplier ng dating food manufacturing company na pinagtatrabahuan ko before. I think meron din silang test strips. Ayan. So may suggestion si Elena, Ecolab daw yung supplier ng dating food manufacturing company nila.
Okay lang sa inyo
Yan. Thank
galing,
you.
wag sa akin. Kasi parang feeling ko hindi proper na kayo magbibigay ng brand.
Sige, ibulong mo na lang sa akin yan, ma'am. Ayan. Maybe we can ano, put it in our shop, the Bailiwick shop, di ba?
Sige, sige,
Para
sige.
para
I can
para
tell
hindi
you.
na
I
hindi
can
na
share it
natin
with you.
ano, hindi na problema ng mga students natin. So meron din kaming gloves. We're selling
Mm.
gloves sa Bailiwick shop namin, tsaka yung towels. Yan. Yung
Some of
color-coded
the
towels we have there.
some of the manufacturing plants that I visited only utilizes 3 color codings. Tapos naglalagay na lang sila ng parang ibang marker para sa area.
Mm.
So the 3 color codings are clean, semi-clean, and dirty. Like for example, if you're cleaning mga floors. Yun yung isang
Mm-mm.
floors and sinks. Yun talagang sobrang dirty. Meron lang silang locator mark kung para saan siya. Pero yung sobrang dirty, they mark it as red. And then yung semi-clean is the outside of the pots and the mixing bowls, if ever there would be mga spillages. And then the clean is the actual food to contact surfaces.
Mhm.
So they have just 3 color codings. Pero that is for for mass production. For small
Oo.
kitchens, kaysa naman maghalo-halo pa ulit, better na
Oo.
marami. Basta naalala nyo lang kung ano. Siguro you
Oo.
can post
Naglagay ako
you
ng
can post a
label.
reminder what pink is, what
Correct.
green is, parang ganyan.
Oo, naglagay ako doon sa sa rack. Mayroon akong nakapaskel na kung anong color yung para sa ganito, para sa mesa lang. May color para sa ganito, sa
Mhm.
mga plates.
Even for the
Yan.
mops, you can assign colors
Mm,
for the mops. Mops for outside,
mm,
yung 'di ba yung parang external natin or the storages, and then
mm,
mop for the kitchen, and then mop for toilets.
mm.
Para
Yan,
hindi halo-halo rin even the mops.
correct. Oo, yan. Tama rin pala yung ginagawa namin.
Yes.
Na iba rin yung sa kitchen tsaka doon sa labas. Yun, kasi yun nga, dati rin halo-halo. Tapos na-realize ko na hindi tama yun. Dapat
Ay,
hiwalay siya
isa sa
talaga.
mga example ko rin na mga kwento, I visited this mall wherein the kitchen, the toilet has this parang waiting person. Tapos this
Mm,
waiting person utilizes different colors of rugs. Tapos medyo mahaba pila, so ako ay tremitida. So
mm,
I talked with wait person. So sabi ko, uy, it's nice that you use different colored rugs. Yes, ma'am, this is for the mirrors, and this is for the counters, this is for the basin, this is for the toilet, this is for the doors. And then when it was my time, then when I left, the waiting person was no longer there. And then I
mm.
saw that the rugs was in a basin. Everyone was in a
Sama-sama.
basin. Everything is in a basin. Na parang
Ah,
sama-sama rin siya. Na parang sabi ko, what is the purpose of having color coding if you're going to wash it again?
oo,
Parang
correct.
sayang. Humanga na sana ako kay
Mm.
ate sa sa pagko-color
Coordinate
code. But then again,
sama-sama.
in the washing process, medyo nawala, nasira.
Mm. Okay. Yan nga, pagsasabihan ko nga rin yung husband ko regarding diyan. Thank you for bringing it up. Yun nga, kaya oo nga 'no, dapat hindi rin sama-sama, when you're washing it. Yes, ayan. Um, Meron pang isa. Last na lang 'to. How many cleaning solutions are needed? Can you please mention their generic names? Cleaning solutions. Generic names lang.
It,
Dishwashing liquid, 'yun.
dishwashing liquid kasi, yeah, you can use it for countertops, cleaning, pwede naman.
Mm,
Pero if you can find kasi a liquid soap solution na all-purpose cleaner, pwede siya for dishwashing, pwede siya for cleaning surfaces, then it's better.
mm,
So you will have just one inventory.
mhm.
Pero dishwashing
So,
liquid can be
basically
used naman din for countertops.
mm. So,
Unless
basically
your
isa lang
countertop
po.
is very sensitive.
Opo, 'yun. So, isa nga lang po na cleaning solution ang kailangan for the
For
countertops,
surfaces,
for
yes.
um, the
Pans and
sink,
bowls.
pots and pans. So, it's
Pwede
just
naman isa.
one.
Pwede naman isa lang.
Puwede. Okay.
Dalawa lang
So
kasi meron ka pang hand washing. Ay, oo. Meron kang hand soap. Separate ang hand soap.
okay. Ay, oo nga pala. So, isa pang hand soap before you enter the kitchen, the room. Tapos isa
Mhm.
pang surfaces and pots and pans. So, dalawa.
Dalawa.
Okay. Sige. Thank you po, ma'am. So, no more questions dito. Wala na ba? Tingnan natin.
Kung gusto niyo pa ng maraming sagot sa questions, pwede ba ako mag-vlog?
Sige, sige po, ma'am.
We can
Ano,
follow Malaya
isa lang.
Speaks. I have a
Mhm.
page. You can follow Malaya Speaks. I post their food safety tips and updates. I also conduct online trainings at the moment because it's pandemic.
Mhm.
But I can also arrange for in-house or on-site trainings for you. Kung kayo ay maliit lang na organization at pasok sa IATF, why not? Pero hindi mo na nga yung ECQ kasi bawal pa. And just wait for my monthly update on the training offers that I provide online. And
Mhm.
if you want an exclusive training for you, you can just email me at Maya Polidario, MAIAPOLIDARIO at gmail.com.
Yan.
Kung hindi nyo yung masundan, sunod lang kayo sa Malaya Speaks. FB page ko yan.
I-ano nga natin dyan. Lagay natin dito sa comments. Malaya Speaks, di ba?
Yes,
Na
Malaya
Facebook,
Speaks. Facebook
Facebook
page.
page. Yes.
Yes.
So, she conducts training online, di ba? So, pwede rin tong, you do consultation din, di ba?
Yes, I do
Uh,
consultancy. Um,
mhm,
Sometimes I also do formulation consultancy. Kasi nga, based on the introduction, I've been a QA, I've been an R&D, I've been an auditor,
mhm,
and I've been a corporate food safety manager. And now, currently, I'm a trainer and consultant for food safety and quality.
mhm.
Kaya,
So if you need quality control doon sa company ninyo, kasi
mhm,
I'm sure that our students are looking into that aspect right now kasi yung iba lumalaki na yung negosyo nila. So if you need help from food tech, yun you can contact
mhm.
Miss Maya. Yan.
I actually
Okay.
had a phone-in question before, dati, phone-in. Nag-chat na siya sa akin before. It's one of your students coming from
Ah,
Baguio.
talaga?
The
Oo.
one who won the oven. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Vivian. Uh,
Oo, si Vivian. Yeah.
yeah,
So, she
Vivian.
contacted you na.
She called me and asked me some things already.
Oh, okay. Yun, that's good. Tapos nun, you also do consultancy ba outside the Philippines or dito lang?
So far dito pa lang naman. Pero yung outside the Philippines, I have friends who have been constantly having contacts with me and asking me for tips and practices once in a while.
Mhm.
Not
Dito sa
necessarily for
Philippines.
business, but
Oh,
for household application. I have
okay.
a cousin na started their baking business in somewhere north.
Mhm.
And then after some time, she experienced molding, an early deterioration of the products. So it
Mm-mm.
exhibited early molding of the products that they offer. So they asked me why. Kaya
Oh,
ayun, I was able to help them naman. And thankfully, in a matter of a week, nag, mag,
mm.
nabalik na sa dati. Hi, Miss Mags.
Oh, oo.
Nakita ko.
Ah, so puwede naman pala.
Yes, yes,
Pero
yes.
if they want na ano, na formal na mga accreditation, yung mga ganyan, would you be able to help them with that too? Recommend mga companies dun sa kung saan mang area sila outside the Philippines, puwede ba yun?
Yes,
Do you have contacts para dun, para
yes,
matulungan
yes,
sila?
yes. I still have contacts in some parts of in some parts of the world. May contacts pa rin naman ako. Pero dito sa Philippines,
Oo.
I still have contact with my previous employer and
Mm,
some other certifying bodies if you want to be certified to GMP or HACCP or other higher management systems. So
mm.
you can you can ask me for
Yeah,
that, pero I will not be mentioning their their company
your
names
names
here.
right now. Yeah, you can just contact Miss Maya for that. Yun. Sige, sige po, ma'am.
Pero
Kasi,
for preparation, yes, I can help.
oo, okay. So, kasi yung ibang students namin, they're eyeing for FDA accreditation, mga HACCP, yung mga ganyan-ganyan. So, yun. You can just contact Miss Maya if you're interested. Okay.
Yes.
Yun. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. Maraming kaming natutunan dun sa mga na-discuss mo today. Maraming bago. Yan. Dun sa sa ating discussion, and I hope lahat ng mga students natin na nanonood ngayon, yung viewers natin, marami rin kayong natutunan. So if you find this helpful, please comment down below kung what are your takeaways dito sa ating webinar session. And I hope marami pa tayong mapag-usapan in the future. And if you have any suggestions kung ano pa yung mga kailangan nyo ng tulong dun sa inyong mga business, inyong pang-araw-araw na buhay, then you can just send us a message kung ano yung mga
Yes, yes.
suggestions ninyo. Yan. Yan. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you
And
rin. It was an honor being here, and I was thankful then to have this opportunity to
mm,
share my knowledge and be able to be with you tonight. Ang usapan namin before was 1 hour, tapos naging two
oo
hours.
nga eh. Sabi, naging 2 hours na. Ganyan talaga kami dito kapag nagwe-webinar.
Hindi, it's okay.
Kaya, oo.
My actual worry is, baka mamaya kasi kayo na yung maantok. Pero I'm glad
Mm,
that you're able to fight the
oo.
the antok and learn tonight with us.
Yes. Ganyan talaga kasi gusto namin matuto. Kaya stay kami dito. So yung mga latecomers, don't worry, this is recorded. You can still view it in our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So nandun lang siya. Tapos magiging available rin siya doon sa website natin, doon sa free courses. Yun. So thank you so much everyone for joining us tonight, for tuning in. And I hope to see you on our next webinar. And sa Tip Thursdays, yan, sa Thursday ulit, meron naman tayong live session. Yan. Thank you so much everyone and good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye bye.